See? That's exactly what just happened. You know, I need Lent. I don't know about you, but I really need Lent. And Lent starts in 10 days. It sneaks up on us this year. Now, this is the earliest that Lent can begin. It starts in 10 days. And as I say so often and many times during the year, you ready yet? Yeah. We have to sit down and got to do some thinking. And it was what was in the back of my mind as I was preparing our homily for this evening and for tomorrow, because the second reading and the gospel today are a continuation of last week's readings. Last week, our second reading was from Paul's letter to the Corinthians, and also our gospel was the scene of Jesus in the synagogue in Capernaum, and he says, today, this reading is fulfilled in your hearing. And as Deacon Bill said last week, today you're going to get the sequel, you know, how the people reacted. And they didn't react well. They wanted to throw him over the cliff. You know, that's basically what you see happening. So what's said there that gets them so upset? And what is it that moves us into action? I think it's a perfect way for us to begin our preparation for Lent. Our sitting down and taking a look. Because what Jesus says to the people is that God has acted in mighty ways across the centuries. Will he act for you? That God has come to set people free. God has come to set prisoners free, to declare a year of favor of the Lord. And it starts now. And the people say, no. You want to set people free? No. You want to forgive people? No. You want to do all those things? No. And we hear it in Paul's letter to the Corinthians. Last week, if you remember, Paul, in speaking to the Corinthians, talked about the many gifts of the Spirit that were there. And the many gifts that there are many gifts, and they all come from the same Spirit, whether it be prophecy, speaking in tongues, and all those other things. And people get very excited about that. You know? But Paul, in the reading that we have today, sets it very firmly when he says, yeah, those are all really cool. But the greatest of them all is love. And if you don't have that, then the rest of them are useless. And you and I, you know, we live in a generation in which love is very romanticized. We make Precious Hearts mugs out of them, and we have, you know, I Heart New York and all those other, I Heart Spreckles or whatever it might be. You know. But let's take a look. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not jealous. It's not pompous. It's not inflated. It's not rude. It does not seek its own interest. It is not quick-tempered, and it does not brood over injury. It does not rejoice over wrongdoing. It rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. That's a great examination of conscience for us to sit down with as we begin to look toward Lent. What do I need to do to genuinely enter into the Lenten season this year? Next week in the bulletin, we'll have the outline of what's the rules for fast and abstinence and all the other different things. We'll put that in the bulletin next week, and we'll keep part of it in the bulletin every week. And it's very easy for us, and most of us here are above the age of fasting, so whatever. Yeah. Whatever. And let's face it, we live here on the West Coast. Fish Fridays, that's not fasting. That's not fasting. You know, sitting down to calamari, and no, that's not fasting. But for us to sit to genuinely take a look at what we will do in our hearts, in our lives, in this year of mercy. And what I've decided that I want to do, and I think this is a good night to begin it, is to say that during Lent, for us to reflect on the works of mercy, from the perspective of our family. In the light of Lent, how do we live the works, spiritual and corporal works of mercy, in the context of our family? We just finished a 2-year self-study in the church on who we are as family and how we live as family. Now, we've got no documents out of that yet. That's still probably another year or so away. But a lot of us spent a lot of time thinking about it and talking about it. So when the rubber hits the road, what does it look like? If we take the gospel seriously and say that this is the year of mercy and we apply it to our life as families, what does that look like? What does it mean for us to say that love is what really matters? That love in our families is patient. Love in our families is kind. Love in our families bears all things. Love in our families never fails. What does it look like for you? What does it look like for me? Because in a very real way, you're my family. And what are the ways that you and I need to grow together from now until Easter? And I hope over the next weeks of Lent, through the course of the homilies and so forth, to reflect on that, taking the year of mercy, having just finished 2 years of reflection on family. What does that mean for us as we live the corporal and spiritual works of mercy? I invite you to do the same thing. Around the dinner table, sitting at home, whatever it might be, whenever you have the time or the chance, whether it be alone or with somebody else, to reflect. What does this challenge me to do? What does this challenge me to be? As I genuinely try to be a witness of the gospel today, here and now. Then find time to talk about that with others. Whether you're in an Arise group or in the morning scripture study group, or you're in the afternoon spirituality group, or you're just hanging out with friends. Hey, did you think about that homily on Sunday? Pretty lousy homily, wasn't it? I don't want to do it. Whatever it might be. But at least have an opinion and allow it to move you in some way to genuinely grow toward our coming celebration of Easter.